You might find yourself in a situation where you've got a template that you want to use, but you'd really like to use the homepage slider app, and you're wondering, how do I get this to work if I'm starting from a template rather than from building from scratch? In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's first start with the why. Why would we even want to do this? Well, the homepage slider app gives a nice interface for your customers or the admin users to control the slides. Add new ones, rearrange ones, add videos and images, and then also for you as a developer to go ahead and manage the different options pretty easily. This app is available at the BC App Store and can be installed directly onto your site. Now, if we look at the default installation, we'll see that it looks like this, but it does not have to. We can actually accommodate a wide variety of styles and installations. So we have our BC Gurus template that looks like this, and we're going to go through the process of installing that app and modifying it so that we have a slider that looks and functions just like the one on this template. So we have the benefit of the template, but also the benefit of the app. This video assumes that you've already done the following. You have a template on your partner portal. In this case, we're using one from BC Gurus, that you've replicated that site from the template and have another site in your partner portal, and that's the one that you'd be working off of. And step 3, that you have gone to the BC App Store and purchased the homepage slider and installed it onto that particular website. So the point that we're jumping into is the moment after the app is installed onto the site. Before getting into the implementation, I want to go over a couple problems that we see. One is that sometimes people put multiple references to jQuery on the same page. This is not a good idea, and this will cause an error. So we only want one reference to jQuery. So even though our instructions may say to add it to the page, you'll only do this if you don't have jQuery already on the site. In the case for the BC Gurus template, it's already there, so we don't need to do that. Step 2 is that we see sometimes people putting the reference to jQuery after the slider JavaScript, which is not correct. We need jQuery to initiate before our slider JavaScript will work. And last, this is an app that is offered and built by Solid Sky. So all documentation and support for the app should go to them. This video is a demonstration, an example of how to utilize the app. Let's get started with the installation. Now, I just want to tell you ahead of time that we're going to be going through this live, and so you might see some shortcomings or things that is done incorrectly, and that's actually by design, because these are things that you're going to likely run into when trying to do this. And part of the value of this video, in my opinion, is showing how to figure out how to do things and to troubleshoot when things go wrong. All right, the first thing I want to do is just get my image assets prepared. So if we look at the template, right now there's only technically one image that's sliding through here. I don't love that. I'm going to have 2 just so I can kind of prove that it's working. So if I go back to the back end, I'll go to Web Apps and then Homepage Slider. Here I can see that there's a web app for these guys, and if I click on one, you can see how it's inserted in the normal way. So I can tell that there is a folder called _assets image slider. Now we have our folder set up for /images/slider, and that's where our app is configured to pull from. So if we go over to our app and then click on options, you'll see that our image folder is set up here. Now we can change this, but I recommend that you leave this just like this. You can pull to a different image folder, but just keep in mind that the app only supports folder definitions of 2 levels deep. If we reference that assets folder that's in the BC Gurus template, it will not work expectedly. So we're going to keep this in here, and we're going to transfer some of those images over. If we go over to Dreamweaver, I have already connected and downloaded the site. So I'm going to click over to local view, and I'm going to go to my _assets image slider, and then I'm going to take these 3 slider images, I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to go down to my images slider folder and I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to upload these 3 so that they're now available when I want to add them from the front end. In this case, I don't want or need the default images here because it's not going to give me an accurate representation of whether or not I've recreated this slider. So I'm going to go and delete these out, and we're going to add a new image slide. Now the headline I'm going to grab from the web app that I'm pulling up on a different screen. And what we'll notice here is actually we don't have the same fields. So we have a small title, a caption, a description, and then they have the item name. And if we look over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different fields here. And then there's the button, which they don't give you the option to upload the button. So we're not going to be able to 100% recreate this, but we can at least recreate most of it, where I can have a headline, subheadline, and link text. And so I'm going to say, all right, I want this to be the headline, the road to success starts here and now, this to be the subheadline, and then the link text is going to be this. So we're just going to we're going to have to do away with the top part of this slide. All right, so I'm just going to copy some of this data in, and our link text is going to be book me for your event. And then our link URL, we can pull that in. Now next is we need the image. So we're going to browse, and here we can see the image is already in our image folder. Now we can upload a new one, but I'll just go ahead and grab this blue one that is part of the template, and we'll click insert, and we'll add this slide. Okay, now I'm going to add one more and add slide. So now we've got 2, and you'll notice that they're actually different widths and different heights, and so we're actually going to want to accommodate for that in our CSS, which we'll go through. But now we'll click publish to update the changes. All right, now we've got our slides prepared. We need to go ahead and actually install this on the website. So I'm going to head over to the instructions tab to find out what to do. Here we're going to see that step 1 is we're going to add the CSS file to the head of the HTML document. So I'm going to copy this, come over to Dreamweaver, I'm going to find my CSS file. Well, rather, I'm sorry, not my CSS file. I want to go to the head of all of the documents where I believe BC Gurus has this an underscore system includes, and then a head include file. Great. So this is going to be included in all of the pages, and so we're going to just place the CSS here underneath the other CSS, but in front of the JavaScript. Now notice here that the JavaScript for the jQuery is already placed, so we're not going to do that step that's in the instructions. All right, so step 2 is add the content holder where you want to place the slider. Okay, so I'm going to grab this, I'm going to come over to Dreamweaver, and I'm going to go to my template and then home page. And here I can see is where they're outputting the slider. So I'm going to replace that reference to the web app and put in my content holder and save and publish. Coming back, they're going to want me to include jQuery in the template before the closing body tag. That's fine, I have it in the head, and that's perfectly fine where it is, and I do not want to add a second one. Now I need to add this slider scripts, and I'm going to do this before the closing body tag. So I'm going to go back to my home page, go down before the closing body tag, and place this reference. Save and update. All right, now if I go to my home page and look at the slider, it's completely broken. That's not really great, and we're going to go through why this is happening. Well, for one is we have a conflict of sliders here. We have that other slider that's still trying to be initiated, and we've got our slider, and so they're competing, and it's just broken. So if we go back to our template and we notice that our content holder is now placed inside of this section and UL where the other script was firing, or the other slideshow. And so I want to keep the styling, but I just want to do away with the functionality. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to call these app at the end. So I'm just changing the class so that, and then I'll update the CSS so that it reflects these. But then this way, there won't be any JavaScript that's conflicting and trying to run off of those classes. So I'm going to save and update this. And then I'm going to go over to underscore assets, CSS, and then our styles.css. And I'm going to search for main slider and replace all of them with main slider-app. So main slider. Okay, so I'm going to add -app afterwards. -app afterwards. And I could have done a find and replace, but I just wanted you to see more specifically. And then I have the home slider, which is the other one. So we're going to click find that, and then we're going to add app afterwards, and add app afterwards. And then we're done. So we're going to save and publish this. Now when we refresh, our site looks like this. And this is a lot better. It's a lot closer to what we want, and I can see that it works, so I'm getting pretty excited. However, it doesn't look exactly like this. And maybe part of the reason why I wanted this template, because I really liked the style of this slideshow, and I want to replicate that here. So here's the cool thing, is you don't even have to know a whole lot about CSS really to kind of duplicate this, because the CSS is already done in that other instance. We just need to update and change the CSS for the app. Now it's important to note that you do not want to actually go and change the slider HTML that is in a content holder, because if you change this, then next time the user goes and updates the app, it's going to revert back to what it was. So you have to accept that the URL structure or the HTML structure is going to look like this. And then we have to do all of our styling based off of this structure so that it can match the look of the other slider, even though that the HTML for that other slider is structured a little bit different. So we're going to be spending a lot of our time in the Chrome Dev Tools. So if you're not using Chrome, I highly advise it, or there might be other browsers that have similar features or extensions as well, but I think this really helps to quickly see how your changes would impact it so that you don't waste a lot of time going back and forth. Okay, one of the first things I want to look at changing here is the position of the content. I have it here in the bottom left hand corner, whereas this is kind of up here in the center, left center almost. Okay, so if I'm going to inspect element on here, and I'm going to look at the container, so I can see that this slider content is what contains all of these. Now I can see what the attributes are, and I can look at this. I can select them, copy them. Now I can go over to my other one, and I can inspect element, find the containing region. This time it's div class slide info, and then I can go down here and I can add those items. Okay, so that changed it a little bit. So I replaced the width of 350 with the width of 100%, and I'm floating left, and I've got a max width of 623. Okay, so I didn't quite accomplish it all. I want to go back to, I actually want to look at some other things here and see, okay, is there a background that's getting applied? I don't want a background. So let's see. Oh, this background right here. So sometimes it's removing properties. So I want to remove my background. Okay, so now it's looking like this, and I turned off a couple of the options, but it's still not looking exactly right. So what I want to do is I want to come back here, and I notice here that this is the HTML set up a little bit differently, where this div class slider content is also in a container of div class row, and then we've got this div class orbit caption. So I want to look at some of these other ones as well and be like, oh, okay, this width is 100%, and grab all these properties and see if I can carry these over. And now I don't have another div to apply it to under, above this. So I'm going to apply it to this slider info and see if I can throw it down here. So I still have this border here that isn't really necessary. So I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm also noticing that it's positioned pretty well vertically, but horizontally, it's still hugging the left-hand side, and I don't want that to happen. So we got to figure out what we're doing here. So if we come over here and look at our row, we realize that this orbit caption is taking up the full width. This row is just in the middle. So then we got to look. I'm going to look down here and see, why is that happening? Is there a certain margin that's creating it? Certain padding, and let's see, or the slider content. Let's see if there's any padding on that. No. So we got to figure out, okay, how is row coming in here? We've got 100% text align left. We got margin auto. Okay, so this margin auto we're gonna grab, but we're actually gonna have to change it up a little bit. So we're gonna grab these guys here, and we're gonna come back over. And there's a bit of delay on this one for whatever reason, but we're gonna come back up. Okay, let's see if we have a margin in here. We do, and it's at auto. And actually, I want to say the left side, I'm going to say let's do it 20%. Okay, great. So now we've kind of positioned it in the center right here, which is so far looking pretty good. So let's say I've got all of those tweaked pretty good how I want them. Here's the nice thing is I don't have to recreate all that work. I can just highlight this, copy it, and I can see that it's in my slider.css at line 61. So I'm going to go over to Dreamweaver, and I'm going to go over to my BCS homepage slider, and then slider.css. So here's where we customize all the slider styles. So we're going to go here, and what I'm just going to do is I'm going to replace over this. Now it's going to include all the things that I commented out, and so I'm just going to delete those items, and everything else is left with the ones that I want. So I should be able to save and publish and come back and refresh my page, and it should look exactly the same. Good, it does. So now I've made a little bit of progress. Now let's make some more progress. All right, so I want to get this text and all that good stuff to look like it does here. So what I'm going to do is let's do it one piece at a time. So I'm going to take the H1, and I'm going to say, okay, here's all the styles that are being applied to the H1. Now let's go over to this. Oh, this is an H3. It's not a big deal, but I can go ahead and add those to here. And it looks like I'm overriding the font size. Okay, good. So the road to success starts here and now. That's looking pretty good. So I'm going to make that update. So if I come back to my window, and I will copy all of these here, and I'll go to slide 82 down here, or H3, and we can replace over all of these guys, and click save and update. And refresh, and we should be back to exactly where we were. All right, so now I want to update this paragraph of text here, so I'm going to do the same thing. And we're going to come back here and do that. So update the paragraph, the BX wrapper is where we want it. That's in the, and then we're going to click enter. Okay, great. So now we have that looking like that. So that's great. So now I'm going to grab all of these, and we can grab including the commented one above if you want as well. And so that's in line 29 of this. So let's go 29. And we don't want 2 line heights, so I'm going to get rid of that one, save and update. And by this point, you're probably getting a feel for the process here. So we're just going to continue to pick apart the differences and grab the CSS from our other place. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Ours is centered, theirs is left justified. We can work on that, but let's get this this button into shape. So we're going to come back here. We're going to click inspect element. We're going to grab this this link here, which ultimately is that button, and we're going to grab these properties as well. Come back, and we can enter these in here, and it's overriding a bunch. And one of that it's not overriding is the background, so we're going to disable the background. And now that that background of the button is disabled, we can see, all right, this is looking a lot closer now. This is great. Okay, if we look at the little triangle thing here, we realize that this is additional HTML that is getting inserted in here. So you could do this with CSS on here to automatically position it, but remember we're not going to be adding any HTML. We have to work with the existing HTML. And just for time's sake, we're just going to say we don't want that caret or that triangle here, and our button is fine just like this. So we're just going to commit these changes to our CSS. So I'm going to come back here and we're going to grab all of these, and that is in line 99 roughly. So we're going to come down 99, so our slider info A. All right, so this display, we gotta get rid of this background. Display here that's really the same thing. The colors is duplicated here, so we don't need that. Again, let's see the font weight. We're gonna text decoration, padding, border radius, font size. Okay. It doesn't look like we have any more duplicated properties. And we're going to click yes to all. And we're going to refresh just to make sure that we did it right. Okay, and we're back. And our slider's looking pretty good. But let's say we wanted it left justified. Let's figure out what's making that left justified. So if we go back to our slider content, it says float left. Let's see if we disable that. Oh, okay, no, that's not doing it. Is it our row here? That is text align left. Yep, that seems to be doing it. I don't know if we copied that property over. So let's go and inspect our element, and let's apply that to our slide info and just add that down here and see if that does it. And it does. So I'm going to go back to line 67 and add that property. All right, starting to look really close, but there's a couple other things that I don't want. One is I see that we've got a little bit of spacing up here. My left and right arrows are not the same, and I've got this pagination down here that I don't want, or at least is not part of this template. So this piece actually is going to be a little bit different, this pagination. It's something that we can control within our options. So I could just go over here and say pagination no, and click Save Options. And say OK, and then I'll click refresh, and now that pagination is gone. Great. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this space at the top. I'm not really a huge fan of that. I want it to hug the top just like this one does. So I'm going to inspect my element and figure out what's causing that. So if I go over to my BX wrapper, I can see that there is this border being applied. So I can see if I toggle this off, what happens. And we can now see that that border is gone, and now it is flush right up against the top nav, which is nice. And now I don't have the border below. So I just want to go to slider.css line 47 and get rid of that border. Not a big fan of that. So we're going to get rid of this border line, save and update. Okay, refresh. All right, now we're back and we're going to be updating our previous and next buttons. So we're going to inspect our element here and find our button. Again, it doesn't really matter that this is a button and the other one is different. So we're going to see that we've got home slider slick dash prev, and we're going to grab our items here, and then we're going to come back over to here and we're going to inspect element. But now, instead of applying it to this top one, which has to do with all controls, I just want to affect the previous one. So I'm going to come down to this one and apply these. And let's see what happened. Okay, well, this URL actually needs to be edited because it's in a different spot, and I want to put an absolute URL here. So this is actually assets/image. And so we'll see this is showing up, which is nice, except we're seeing that our width and our height are being overridden here because of our other properties up here. And so actually I want to update my properties here, 31 and 50, to reflect the new values. And you can see that I've got my arrow here looking pretty good. So what I want to do is I'm going to copy these two. So these are the only two that need to be applied to this this bx-prev. So, and this is on line 163. So we're going to come down here, go to line 163, and I'm going to apply those and click save and update. But let's not forget that I also changed the width and the height of the elements in 105. So let's go up to 105 and let's grab the width and the height. And I'm actually not finding it here. What did I do? Okay, so this is bx-controls-direction A. So this ended up being slide 185. Oops. Okay. So here we go, the width and the height, we're going to change those out, and we're going to hit save and update. And let's refresh. And our previous arrow is looking good. So let's do the same thing with our next arrow. So this time we're going to have to do a little less work, but we're just going to grab this piece, and then we're going to inspect this one, and we're going to apply it just to the next. And this time we shouldn't have to fix the height because we already did on the main container, but we didn't update the image reference yet. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we've got that right arrow. So we'll go ahead and copy these two elements and go over to line 168 and put in those. All right, well, it looks like we're almost done. If we kind of flip back and forth between this slide and this slide, it looks like we're pretty much there. Again, we have some differences because we're not going to have this, and technically this one's over to the right just a little bit, but let's just say I prefer that. So all that's good. Our slide number 1 looks excellent, but our slide number 2, well, the picture isn't as wide as the other one, which is unfortunate, but maybe I don't want to have to make the client always have like the perfect image, and I want this to actually fill the whole screen. I can look and let's say inspect element. Well, what if I said this, instead of just the max width being 100, what if I just always set the width equal to 100%? Let's see what happens here. Oh, nice. Now this fills the space appropriately. Now it's a little bit more of a robust slider. I like that. So I'm going to grab my width of 100%, go to our line 39. Look at the image and grab the width is 100%, save and update. And we're going to refresh and just make sure this is all working correctly. Here we go. We got our 2 sliders, and it's actually, the height is a little bit different on this picture, so it's adapting. So that's cool. It's moving the page contents up and down as the image might be a different size. So that's really cool. And now what we're saying, well, you know what? The client is like, oh, I actually want this one to be first. We're going to hit publish, and now we're going to refresh. And now our website is updated, and this is the first. This is the first one. This is the second. And now we are successfully using the keynote speaker template from BC Gurus, and then also the homepage slider app from Solid Sky, available on the BC App Store. My hope is that this tutorial was really helpful in you understanding how to customize the homepage slider app and how to install it on the website. And we feel this is a really powerful app that it makes it easy for your clients to update and change out sliders. So we hope you enjoy it. And again, I hope this video made some things clear in terms of how to install and customize the app. If you have any questions or comments, please do so in the comment section on the tutorial page below. Thanks.